sumava paksamitor, oftelese pomuomo, ole drepsona.
Boy and the World. You know one place that's an animation powerhouse that isn't known to be an animation powerhouse? Brazil! Technically, there are some notable animated films that are set in Brazil, like Blue Sky's Rio, and there are prominent Brazilian animators like Carlos Saldanha, but very few are actually aware of the long history of Brazilian animation, which can date all the way back to 1917. And yet, their works almost never get a chance to showcase themselves outside the country. Yes, many are aware of the infamous former studio Video Brinquedo, but we want to discuss about Brazilian animation in a positive way, so let's not talk about that. But then in 2013 came Boy and the World, a small independent feature that is distinctively Brazilian, yet became a major phenomenon in animation festivals during its time, winning awards as it traveled around the world, and even got some mainstream attention when it was nominated at the Oscars for Best Animated Feature. But now that it's time to enter in this world, will we discover why this is a highlight in Brazilian animation history? Or are there more interesting things to watch in this world than this boy? Let's find out. The story. Maybe this wasn't intentional, but the title is built to present what the story is actually about. It begins with a boy, but as it progresses, the narrative becomes about the world that's around him. In a way, it's quite a deceiving film where it may look cute and simple at first, but the core of it all is actually much darker with a complex message regarding a grim reality in our society. It begins with a little boy named Cuca who goes out of his rural home to look for his father that he loves. But once he gets closer to the big city and passes through the workers who picks cotton to turn into fabric, there lies the movie's commentary about modern Brazilian culture, presenting the working class and industrialism fighting against each other as capitalism further separates the poor from the rich. And yet, even with this massive contrast between the boy and the world, the whole feature remains mostly consistent as it is told through the perspective of a young child. Someone who is obviously naive of what's going on around him, and mostly lets his sense of wonder and motivation to find his dad guide him. It is a clever way to discuss about some serious cultural issues that everyone can understand, but sometimes it can have its faults. Sure, it does give the movie some beauty when viewing the world through childlike wonder, but it can happen when the film stops to let the kid just do what he wants with not much purpose. He doesn't even try to look for his father at that point, he just gets distracted to stall the film until the next scene starts. Then again, I can't really fault the film too much for making the kid feel like an actual kid. Not to mention that it all concludes with a twist ending that ties everything together and leaves off with a bittersweet feeling about the whole adventure. With a good blend of a little boy's journey and a commentary of a corrupted society driven by consumerism, it's a story that is filled with surprises where audiences would find something more valuable than Cuca's dad. The animation. Speaking of deception, there is no better way to describe the animation. Very similar to the story, it may seem to have this cute minimalistic style, but actually contains so much more to the point that the visuals are the driving force of the movie's storytelling. This is not to undermine its simplicity though, even that art style is still quite strong on its own. As the movie begins, the designs are presented completely childlike, all with very vibrant colors, everything looks like it was drawn with crayon, the characters are almost depicted like stick figures, and leaves a lot of room for open space to take advantage of going abstract with its transitions and help visually depict Cuca's perspective. In a way, it's almost like a living kaleidoscope where it sacrifices the details and let the shapes and colors alone to take control of the film to say a lot with the materials it had. A great example of this is one of the main themes of the feature, music. The little flute song is represented as Kuka's strongest memory of his dad, and it plays throughout the feature while he is on his pursuit. The way they represent it visually is with colorful bubbles to not just show that his father could be close by, but also as the voice of the people. But like I said, that is only at the start of the picture. Once Kuka gets closer to the big city, he goes further from the cute style and all those pretty colors. As he enters into more industrial environments, the crayon designs and the colors are swapped out for a mixed media look with cutout pictures used to make the buildings and the billboards, with most of the saturation just gone, showing the city life as artificial and everything you see forcefully wants you to buy something. And the richer the area Kuka's in, the more high-tech and the more detailed the animation becomes. Kind of like the movie is symbolically saying that detailed and advanced designs are just a luxury that only the rich could afford. Boy in the World is one of those rare films that put its animation completely center stage to present exactly what it's supposed to be about. It's a simple boy with a colorful imagination in a frighteningly industrialized world. The characters. Usually in these reviews, I would list down the cast of characters and discuss them one by one. This movie, however, does not have that. Despite that there are several people presented throughout the film, there is only one character that matters, and that is Kuka. Or at least that is what the summary calls him, because I forgot to mention the fact that this film has no dialogue, leaving the animation to mainly tell the story. Yes, people do talk in the film, but it's literally just Portuguese and backwards, so not even the Brazilians could understand them. Anyways, like I said before, the boy is really nothing more than just that, a little kid who goes out to find his father. He is very wide-eyed and often gets distracted with the new things he sees around him, but he's possibly the only thing in the film that still has his innocence and can see the beauty that's in the world when it's not corrupted by capitalism. Technically, there are two down-on-their-luck workers that Kuka tags along on his journey as they struggle with maintaining themselves in the workforce, but without spoiling anything, let's say that there is a connection with the boy and those guys that resonate with the film's message to really make sense with what it's trying to say. Other than that though, that's really it. If I would give this one big criticism, it's that the characters are treated as an afterthought. Sure, the movie's priority is its commentary, and the little amount of characters they have are meant to just emphasize it, and for that, I don't fault it at all. In fact, considering that it did a great job doing it, it does make the characters a bit of a plus. But on their own, they really are just a small group of generic characters. The kid is just a kid, his caring parents are just caring parents, and the two workers, well, you'll find out when you see it. But while they are the most forgettable part of the film, that doesn't make them bad or pointless at all. They serve their purpose to help tell the story and give a better understanding to the film's message. Can't complain too much at that point. Boy in the World can be best described as the Brazilian Don Hertzfeldt movie. As it may have a cutesy and simplistic exterior, it is actually a deep and thoughtful commentary on industrialism and how it is harming the Brazilian people, presented with charming yet powerful animation that allows the animators to tell the story instead of an actor. While it does contain some heavy themes, it's the kind of feature that I could actually recommend to anyone to go check it out, especially when it's a really good film anyways. Kids can enjoy the sweet art style and the boy's fun little adventure through his eyes, while adults can appreciate the strong message that it tries to say regarding the flaws of our modern society. In a way, this is what independent films are all about, going beyond the typical format of mainstream movies in order to say what very few have the courage to say. And that is what got this film the Animat seal of approval. Hey guys, this is Animat. Now, before I go and talk a little bit more about Boy and the World, I just would like to go and give a quick shout out to a documentary that I highly recommend you should go and watch, or if you are capable of finding it, then please go and check it out. The documentary is called Between Frames. Now, this movie actually does look into the history of Brazilian animation, along with talking to many of some of the most prominent Brazilian animators that are still alive today. And not only talking about the full history of it all, chronicling like from 1917 with the cartoon Kaiser all the way up to the cartoons of today, but even mentioning how Brazilian animation does influence our modern culture, or how it influences modern animation that it is today, especially when they would go and talk to people like Carlos Aldana, along with his Blue Sky movies like Ice Age, and especially with Rio, since that is one of the very rare mainstream animated features that is set in Brazil. Like, honestly, the only one that I could think of, or the only other one that I could really think of a mainstream animated film set in Brazil, is probably like the Disney films back in the 1940s, you know, Saludos Amigos and The Three Caballeros, and that's pretty much it. But all this to say that, yes, you should definitely go and check out Between Frames if you want to learn a lot more about Brazilian animation, because to be quite honest, there's a very rich history in animation that is in Brazil that nobody's really talking about. In fact, they're as much of an influence to animation as much as some of the European countries like France and Russia. So I highly recommend, if you want to really go and really learn more about animation culture from around the world, then Brazil is definitely one of them, because they have provided so much animation, or more than 100 years of animation, that is worth looking into. It's worth checking out. So all this to say, please go and watch Between Frames, and this is my personal recommendation, and no, this is not a sponsorship, I swear. But anyways, yes, going back to Boy and the World though, like I said in my review, honestly, it very much is a fascinating animated film to look into, because it really does define what an independent animated feature is, where it goes beyond what the mainstream would usually do to really highlight this very fascinating message about our modern society, and doing so in a way that is completely different, or in a way that you would find that no modern animation studio would ever do, especially when it focuses more on the animation itself than including big name celebrities to voice funny little characters and CGI and stuff like that. Like, there is that area where it may seem cute, it may seem like it's more appealing to children than it is for adults, but it does have this very solid core that has a strong commentary that would make anybody go and think. So there is like this hidden power that is within Boy and the World, and honestly, I find that it really does make sense why this is one of those animated films that would be a massive highlight across so many different animation festivals, and even being nominated for an Oscar. Now, sure, it didn't win, because it is next to impossible for an independent animated feature to actually win an Oscar for Best Animated Feature, but the fact that it did get that recognition, that is a major title and a major moment, especially for that film in itself, and especially a massive highlight in Brazilian animation. That's why nowadays Boy in the World is one of the most recognizable pieces of Brazilian animation, and it's very much understandable. So yeah, I guess all this to say that if there are two movies to take away from this that you should definitely go and watch, it's the Between Frames documentary, and also
Boy in the World. It's definitely worth seeing, and definitely worth looking into in terms of the commentary that it is trying to say as well, on top of just watching a really good animated film to begin with. Alright, so with that said now, it is time that we shall go and conclude Boy and the World, where we shall jump into our next review through a Patreon request, and this time around it shall be from Peyton Michael. So I would just like to go and start things off by saying that if you guys would like to be like Peyton and you want to get some amazing rewards while supporting me at the same time, and for some of these rewards, those would actually include but not limited to watching my videos before anyone else, then all you have to do is go to patreon.com/Animax. But at the same time, if you guys would like to suggest an animated film you would like me to review and I would put onto the animation hat, then all you have to do is write me an email at animaxreviews@gmail.com. So with that said, what is it that Peyton asked me to go and review? What is it that he wants me to look into and actually talk about? Well, interestingly enough, we're kind of going into the opposite route with this, where before I talked about an independent animated film that maybe not many people know about, to a mainstream animated film that I'm sure a lot of people have talked about. And man, am I excited to revisit this one. I'm gonna say it right now, yes, the next review will most likely be positive, because it's definitely one of my favorite animated films, and I would even go as far and say one of, if not the funniest Disney film out there.